Okay. All right, great. Well, again, welcome, Andrea. Welcome, everybody. We'll see if we get some more folks through the course of the hour. But we wanted just to thank everybody for participating in this, and for my esteemed colleagues who have been so wonderful in helping to organize this, and really to talk about how critically important student financial well-being is on our campus, with students, with alum, with our fellow colleagues in the community. I'm Chris Callahan. I'm research faculty at the School of Social Work, and I'm chair of the Financial Social Work Initiative. And we are really focused on and committed to this work, financial well-being, financial stability, for our clients, for our communities, for our students. And so we're going to be talking specifically about students here today, and just things that we have and have been doing on students' behalf and their financial stability, and just have an opportunity to talk a little bit about that and some things that we have going on right now at the school. So I'm just very, very pleased to have with me today not only our colleague Isabel Garcia, who is annual fund officer, right, Isabel? With the school, and she has just been wonderful in helping us organize these networking events where we can get together and talk about different issues having to do with financial stability, financial social work, and financial well-being, and so forth. And also by Dean Taylor, who is Associate Dean for Student Services here at the school, and just has been a marvelous colleague in in working with students on these issues, and really focused on on these issues. And she has a lot of exciting things that she's going to be reporting on that her office is doing too. And then finally, our colleague Tisa Silver Canady, who previously was with UMB and is founder and executive director of the Maryland Center for Collegiate Financial Wellness, which is a wonderful organization that is focused on these issues, and just doing a lot of really exciting work. So again, welcome everybody, and welcome to folks who will be listening to this once we have it posted. If you're not able to join us today, we are just so thrilled that you are listening to our presentation today, and as always, we are here to support you and to always talk with you about any of these issues, and setting up one-on-one meetings and so forth with you on these issues, or any questions and concerns that you have. So with that, I'm just gonna just kind of start the conversation. And first of all, we're going to be talking about why student financial wellness is so important. And for that, I'm just going to hand it over to Tisa for a little bit, and she'll be talking a little bit about why this is so critically important. So take it away, Tisa.
Thank you, Chris, for that wonderful introduction. Student financial well-being, my goodness. Before we get into why it's important, I think it's important to define student financial well-being. So I want to share with you a definition from the CFPB, which is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and that is financial well-being. It's a state of being wherein a person can fully meet current and ongoing financial obligations. They can feel secure in their financial future, and they're able to make choices that allow them to enjoy life. So there's a lot packed into that definition, but just for me personally, the opportunity to enjoy life is extremely important, and I would like for everyone to enjoy that opportunity. But if we drill down on college students and graduate students as well, we've seen that they face several forms of financial stress, and a lack of finances is an often cited reason for people stopping out or dropping out of school altogether. When we look at graduate students, the concerns are a bit different because the risk of attrition is lower, but there's also a higher reliance on student loans. And from my own experience working in financial aid and also working with student loan borrowers, what we've seen with students is kind of this roller coaster of emotions, and that's also linked to wellness. And a lot of times that roller coaster is running in tandem with their finances. So at the start of a semester, the calls that are coming in can be very eager, wondering when a disbursement is going to post, when's the money going to get there, because students have obligations to take care of at the start of the semester. Once the disbursements come in, then the calls taper off because moods are high, account balances are high, everybody's okay. But as the semester moves forward, that balance goes lower and lower and lower. And since disbursements come once per semester or once per academic term, there's a lot of money that you receive at once, and you have to stretch it and make it last for several months. And sometimes that's difficult. Sometimes emergencies come up and it cause shocks to the system, and you still have to wait for the next disbursement. So what I observed a bit during my time at UMB was disbursement season were high. As the holidays approach, moods are low. More frantic calls come in inquiring about the next disbursement date, emergency loans, or advances on the refund for the spring semester. Disbursements come in January, moods are back up, and we go back into that cycle once summertime is about to approach, because people have to find a way to make the funds last or enroll in summer school. So it's very clear. I've read several articles about this recently, that financial stress is top of mind for many Americans. But when you think about students in particular, there are just so many differences between the student experience and the, I don't want to call it regular person experience, because students are people too, but in the outside of being a student, you usually work and get paid every 2 weeks, twice a month, whatever it is. You work, you get paid, and it kind of forces you to be disciplined because you don't have as much cash to work with. But in school, it's thousands and thousands of dollars once, and you got months to make it last until thousands and thousands of more dollars come in and you have to make that last. So ideally, what we'd like to see is a space where there is no roller coaster, because we know that what happens with the money can affect other areas of a person's life. It can cause them to be distracted in class. It can cause them to not go to class altogether. Some people are dealing with pressing things like a pending eviction, or other situations that just aren't conducive to excelling at their academic studies or to their own personal wellness. So in a perfect world, we would be able to make things so that people are even, and not just even, but able to enjoy their lives. And the School of Social Work has done a lot, as Chris said, under the leadership of Dean Taylor, done very much to improve the financial well-being of social work students. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to her to talk more about her work and what she's seeing within the School of Social Work with students now.
Thank you, Tisa. You're so kind. And if I can step out of my role for just a moment, Andrea and Angela, because we are such an intimate group today, I hope this is okay, but I would love to have you introduce yourselves, as well as maybe share a little bit of where you're coming from and your perspective, if that's okay, Chris. I'm going to put my dean cap on for a moment. So Andrea, if you don't mind, can you share a little bit about yourself and where you're coming from?
Hi, I'm Andrea Fenwick. When I saw the information pop up, probably before the pandemic, a year or so, myself and a couple of my colleagues were in a part of the program with Christina Callahan, where we became certified in financial social work. So when I saw the information, it said student financial issues and concerns. I have a daughter who's in school, and she's trying to figure out if she's going a master's program or going straight to a PhD. And of course, I saw her in all aspects of issues and concerns with her finances when she was in school, and that whole thing that you said, Ms. Canady, of waiting for that lump sum to come in and then having to make sure you can manage that over a course of a period of time before you get it again, and being the parent and having to help her out and with finances, and myself and other family members, just to make sure she was okay. So the topic itself hit home for me. I work as part of a career center. So, but I mainly work on the side of employment supports with people with various disabilities or mental health issues. And so in general, folks sometimes come to me and they may be going through doors or to get specialized training, or they may want to find themselves going back to school to pursue education as a way to better themselves and get a better position. So this information is important to me to know about. And if there are resources out there, I would like to hear about those resources so that I could pass that information on.
Thank you so much. Yes, and we do have a plethora of resources. I might ask you, if with your permission, to put your email in the chat so we can make sure we have that. So thank you, and thank you for sharing. Angela, I know I don't see you on screen. I'm assuming you're there. If you could share just a little bit.
Yes, I am here. I want to apologize also for the delay. So I did miss a few minutes of the beginning, but I currently work with individuals with disabilities, but this topic has been pretty, I don't know how to explain it. It's always been a topic of interest when I was a student going through the graduate program at UMB. And I've always wanted to figure out how to pivot, I guess, into it, because I currently work with individuals with disabilities, but my schooling was with children and families, and I think I'm trying to transition. So I figured that this would be a good workshop to attend, just to learn more information, to see where I could go from there.
Thank you so much for sharing. Yes, and sometimes we find ourselves in a particular topic area where we're like, oh, how can I, you're seeing some things, how can I move from one topic area to another? So that definitely I can empathize. So the original question, Angela, was why is student financial wellness important? And Dr. Tisa Silver Canady had shared a little bit from financial well-being, like from this theoretical place. This is about folks' financial health, their wellness, how that impacts other aspects. And I'm going to share a little bit. So as the Assistant Dean of Student Services, I have the privilege of working directly with students. We have 732 fabulous students right now at the University of Maryland School of Social Work. And when I initially took this role and started, working one-on-one with students, I kind of do a bit of a data tracking. Financial concerns are always at the top 3. And as social workers, we always talk about hierarchy of needs, right? If you can't pay your rent and get food and, you're worried about how you're going to pay for grad school, how well are you really going to focus on those class assignments, right? There's going to be something constantly, I say it's like trying to work in a fog, right? So we really believe that financial wellness isn't just a topic to kind of skim over. This has to go, every student, right, has to have the ability to really drill down. What does that mean for themselves? What does that mean for their families? And then as an administrator, how do we support students when we look at those needs? How can we find resources when they do get that lump sum? As our colleagues was talking about it, what is your budgeting looking like, right? Does that lump sum allow you to go to Starbucks every day? Or now are you learning how to make coffee? And I say that kind of jokingly, but Starbucks once a day is $25 to $30 a week. And sometimes with students, that is the tipping point. So we really want to honor their journey and be realistic about what those financial needs are during their journey. So just looking at time, I'm going to bounce it, I don't know, Chris, to bounce it back to you to kind of lead us into the next section.
Sure, absolutely. We wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about different initiatives and programs that we have going on at the School of Social Work and with our Financial Social Work Initiative to support students' financial well-being. And I'm going to bounce it back to Taylor first to talk about the Student Emergency Fund.
So yeah, at the university here, and I will say that I want to acknowledge that COVID and the racial uprising I always compare to graduate programs as running a marathon. COVID and the uprisings and the war in the last 2 years have added a 50-pound backpack to those who are basically running this marathon. So we really had to pivot hard. March of 2020, and I wish I could tell you that we had some crystal ball and we saw some huge red flags. The truth is we were lucky at the School of Social Work and had been looking at creating a student emergency fund for about 9 months previous to March. March happened and we were able to go live with this support of $599 for students who had an emergency need. We have to date approximately served about 96 students with those funds. And I want to just pause here for a moment and share that without the kind and generous donations from faculty, from alumni, from community members, we would not have been able to do that. So I really want you to know that we are standing on the shoulders of giants. And that's how we are able to create this fund and keep it moving. But we have the Student Emergency Fund that we were purposely setting it up. So it takes about 10 minutes to complete the request. As social workers, we know that a lot of times when folks are in crisis, it is about being able to get a hold of somebody very quickly. And usually I get back to the person within 2 hours. Most of the time it's a little faster. And we do that 7 days a week. So there is no Saturday, Sunday time frame off. It's to get to the person to share that, hey, somebody is hearing them and is seeing them. I work really closely with the development team, Miss Isabel Garcia and Peggy Burhouse, who is phenomenal. She is the School of Social Work's financial counselor, and we do our best to get those funds. They're up to $599. People often ask me why that odd amount. Anything above $599 will be taxed in the state of Maryland. So we want to make sure that our students are not taxed on these emergency funds. But we usually get the funds. They're released within 24 hours of myself and Peggy working through that, and then they get the funds 5 to 7 days within their account. Now, that is just the beginning of the conversation, right? When folks are in crisis, because we're all social workers, we have that lovely knowledge in our head. We want to get them over that crisis, but then we want to start talking to them about financial wellness. What does this look like now that they can breathe, right? How do we kind of respond proactively versus reactively? And that's where we have a number of amazing partnerships in the community. I'm going to bounce it to Chris to talk about the cash campaign and so forth. But we really are starting to really push that financial wellness can't just be a one-time topic. It has to be constant. Everybody has to talk about it, right? And we kind of joke, talking about your money gets a little uncomfortable sometimes. And we acknowledge that too. And that is why we're constantly building relationships. We have a magnificent team. Dr. Tisa Silver Canady will talk about that of students when we worked on a pilot program, because oftentimes what we find is students will talk to other students sometimes before they will talk to me. And a lot of times I will get referrals from a student who will say, hey, my friend is in trouble. Can you help them out? And now we follow HIPAA and FERPA, but that's the beautiful part, right? We want to make financial wellness so comfortable that when there is a hiccup or when there is a misstep, that they're not feeling any shame. We want to remove shame and we want to bring back empowerment. So that's my little spiel. Chris, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Sure, thanks. Just the work that our community partners do within our community is so important. One of those is indeed the CASH campaign of Maryland. CASH, the acronym standing for Creating Assets, Savings, and Hope. They're based right here in Baltimore City. They do great work. Financial education, financial coaching, have a whole lot of different webinars and seminars, in-person, virtual, and so forth, just around, not only training, but also letting people know about different issues, different things that all of us need to know about in terms of our day-to-day financial decision-making, and so forth. So they are always just a super great resource here in Baltimore City and throughout Maryland. They also do tax preparation, free tax prep, during tax season, free for folks who are earning, I think, kind of roughly under $58,000 a year. But this is a wonderful resource one that many of our students have taken, have been able to avail themselves of. Yes, indeed. They have sites, tax sites all over the city, all over the state, where people can sign up and have reputable tax prep done by a trained professional. And a lot of times these issues, the tax issues, are really complex, and they are just super great about working with people to get taxes done. And if it's necessary to bring in a tax attorney, they can do that as well. Right. Taylor has mentioned the Community Engagement Center here on campus, where students can go and sign up and have free tax prep. But they offer so many other services as well. So we always just like to put a plug in for them. I do want to give a shout out to Tisa's organization, the Maryland Center for Collegiate Financial Wellness, which is just a wonderful organization that she has founded and that she has directed. We'll pop that website into the chat as well. Thank you so much, Isabel, which is just a great resource, not only for learning about things pertaining to financial wellness with students at the undergrad and graduate levels, but also different events and trainings and things that she has going on, oftentimes with partnership, bringing other people who are working within this space throughout the state. And I've been able to listen in on several of these trainings and events, and they are truly remarkable. And that's a great resource. On our Financial Social Work Initiative website, on the school's website, we offer just a lot of resources, not only pertaining to student financial well-being, things that are going on here on campus. Taylor's site also has just a plethora of, and I hope I'm using that a lot of resources, right? That's what I get for, for using big fancy words, but just wonderful listing of resources for students and for families on this topic. And that's just truly great. And really the bottom line is that this work and this focus just grows in importance day by day, not only for our students, but also for us as colleagues, as social workers, just to find out what other people are doing, what is the focus, what is new and emerging on the horizon in terms of needs and resources. And so it's just been a pleasure to be able to partner with so many people and a growing network of people who are really committed to this area. And this is part of the reason why these networking events are just so wonderful, to bring people together, to talk about these issues, what's going on, what work people are involved in, and so just knowing that there is just so much out there that can help students. I am going to turn it back to Tisa to talk a little bit about the pilot program that we had. This is a really special and unique and innovative initiative that we have going on with respect to student loan debt. And so I'm just going to hand that back over to Tisa to talk a little bit about this pilot program.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Before I mention the pilot, I just jotted down a note in listening to what you and Taylor both said about the Cash Campaign of Maryland and their services. And so I wanted to share one success story. And this came from an event years ago on campus at UMB in one of the library computer labs. We're holding these free tax prep kind of labs for students to come and complete their returns. And what we saw was that the events for the students were starting to draw employees. So we had one person there who was from the facilities crew who had come in, wanted to get her tax return done, and had told us that she had been paying someone $500 to prepare a simple 1040. And I was infuriated, not surprised, but infuriated, because some companies target people, and tell them, you need to get this done. There'll be penalties if you don't get this done, and apply the pressure. And then there's this large fee to do something that they could very well do on their own. So she was able to complete her tax returns, but while going through her information for her tax returns, I asked her, do you have any student loan interest reported? And she found the documents and said, yes. And I said, well, tell me about the loans. And come to find out, the loans were for her son who had passed away a couple of years ago. And she thought that she had to continue paying on those student loans. And so she had been paying the student loan debt faithfully after he passed away. And, we were able to tell her, no, you don't have to do that. Those are federal student loans. And when the borrower passes away, that debt can be cleared. You just have to alert the Department of Education, usually through the school, that the borrower, has passed away and the debt will be cleared. And so we were able to help her with that process and remove that debt burden from her, in addition to her saving the $500 in tax prep fees. And I wish I could remember her last name, because I wonder about her from time to time and would like to check and see how she's doing. But it's those types of events that provide a venue, meeting people physically where they are to address a need, and also looking at their finances more holistically. And there are several experiences, not quite like that one, but where someone came in for one thing and they were able to be helped with something else just because they met with someone where profit motive wasn't there, where it was truly a desire to help someone, as CASH stands for, create assets, savings, and hope. So can't say how thankful I am for the CASH campaign of Maryland and all they do for Marylanders, as well as the fact that they are the current fiscal sponsor of the Maryland Center for Collegiate Financial Wellness. So they've helped me and they've helped a lot of other people too. Now about the pilot program. So last winter, we started a student loan. It was a group coaching experience, and this was a pilot program with private funding. And our goal was to train at least 10 coaches. Some of them were current students and some were FSW certificate program graduates. And the goal was to train them so that they could become kind of student loan repayment coaches for their peers. And so we met weekly. I want to say it was 8 weeks on Friday evenings, you all. Friday evenings of all days of the week. Fridays at 5:30. And we talked about student loans. And at the time that this started, we couldn't have had any idea all of the things, all of the changes that would take place in the world of student loans. And I know some of the students were probably wondering, what did I get into? But they kept coming back. And so we prepared everyone to serve as these repayment coaches for graduates of the class of 2022. Because of the timing of it all and all the changes that were going on, we weren't able to reach as many people as we wanted to during that semester. And so we have extended the coaching opportunity for our coaches to reach the class of 2023. Because what's important to us is that there are more people out there who have this specialized knowledge, who are not motivated by profit and trying to take advantage of student loan borrowers, as many of them are already vulnerable, financially speaking. So by creating this group within the school that has the specialized knowledge and also knows what it's like to be a student in the School of Social Work, we have this network of people who are trustworthy, they're knowledgeable, and they're prepared to meet the needs of their classmates. So it was an exciting time, especially given all the changes going on in the student loan space. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how our coaches are able to help the upcoming graduates of the class of 2023. And just a bit of why projects like this are so important. When it comes to student loan repayment, you won't find a lot of services out there, but the ones that are out there usually charge a pretty penny. And sometimes the amount that they charge can be linked to how much debt a borrower has borrowed. And when I think about that, someone taking out loans for their education and then having to pay a professional to figure out how to repay the debt associated with education, which is not only good for a person, but it's also good for society. It just doesn't sit well with me. And so this program is able to provide students with help from a trusted source nearby, putting a face on it, and them not having to pay anything at all. So it was a pilot. in a perfect world, we will get more funding so that we can reiterate this and not have as many changes going on in the student loan world when the program is running, and just build this out so that there are more people, especially in the state of Maryland, which happens to be very high up, sometimes #1 or #2 in terms of the level of per capita student loan debt in the nation. We need to have a network of people here who have this knowledge, who are willing to provide it, and who are truly thinking about the well-being of our students at every phase of this higher ed continuum. So I'm excited about the pilot. I'm really hopeful for what our coaches can do for the class of 23, and looking forward to just coming up with more opportunities to help people with this problem of student loan debt. And the last thing I'll share about this is that we've had events through the Financial Social Work Initiative, these webinars, and I haven't had one webinar where after the webinar, I was not approached by someone who wanted one-on-one advice. So we know that the need is there, and people appreciate being able to come together and learn about it, but ultimately they have individual questions for which they want customized answers. And for the last event that was hosted that talked about the PSLF limited waiver for public service loan forgiveness, after that event, within a day, I had 15 requests for appointments after that one event. So that tells me that the work that we're doing here with this pilot, we're going in the right direction to address a long-standing need. And I'm also encouraged by people just becoming more comfortable in reaching out and asking for help. So in the future, I'd like to see more capacity around this, but I'm really feeling excited about the work that we've done so far. And in a few months, I'm just looking forward to the success stories that are going to come back from people who have a strategy now, and some people who actually have their debts forgiven.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Tisa.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if we wanted to touch a little bit on, just all the challenges and problems that students can face, especially coming through the pandemic. So many folks affected by that, families affected by that. Do we want to talk a little bit about I guess student burnout, if you will, or just challenges that can just feel very, very overwhelming to students, and certainly financial is a huge piece of that. So just wanted to see if either Tisa or Taylor wanted to comment on that.
Well, and I think we actually can both comment on it. I had the privilege of working and watching Tisa do her magic. The one thing she hasn't shared that I think we need to talk about is having a place of trust. We started with a group of folks who were a little hesitant to talk about money, right? We have been educated in our culture that money is a very private conversation and you don't talk about it. Oftentimes we see that folks don't even talk about it within their own households. And within the first session, right? And you would think, sometimes I laugh, even as social workers can miss opportunities. This was turning into really healing spaces. There are a lot of DEI issues around the topic of financial wellness and loaning. And even in the space that we had, and yes, the sessions were on Fridays from 5:30, but what Tisa also didn't share is that the students just so adored her and loved her teaching method that a lot of times she was there until 8:30. So it wasn't like a quick one and off, right? But we also recognized that there was so much burnout and hurt and harm with this topic, that the topic was bubbling up, that there had to be a mental health component to it. Oftentimes when you hear that as a woman of color, that you had an interest rate that was 6% higher or something than a person, than a white colleague, there are some feelings there. And that was something that I have to recognize that I did not walk into. We were going to talk about money and financial wellness, and how silly of me not to realize that there's some trauma that comes with that conversation that we had to prepare for, and that we had to kind of pivot. And we did. And Tisa, being so gracious in her time, some of those sessions did really turn into some group, not therapy, but group chats around, as women of color, why are we not, and I'm using we right now, speaking for myself, not taught anything, when I was coming up. I was taught save your pennies, but never, what do I do with those pennies once I've saved them? Or how do I invest? Or if I'm looking at student loans, what does that repayment vehicle really look like, right? What are my opportunities and options with those repayment vehicles? We were never taught that. It was never discussed. So I think one of the challenges is that while this was going to be a space that we were specifically going to talk about financial wellness and loan repayment, it turned into this is also learning how to talk about money in a safe space. We want to recognize there are a lot of predators, and I'm going to name those predators, right? But how do we find those safe people, to Tisa's point, who aren't charging and who aren't getting, I'm going to say, I call them financial vampires, so forgive me, that's my term, but who aren't going to drain the life out of our young and upcoming powerful students, so that they can't make choices like, do they purchase a home or are they renting, right? Some of those things. So that was something that that took us aback, and I'm going to own I wasn't seeing it coming, but now in hindsight, of course, I should have seen it coming. We were in the middle of COVID. We were in the middle of uprisings, the racial uprisings. So, duh, I want to have a moment from Homer Simpson, really, duh. So, and then Tisa, I'll hand it to you.
I definitely need to have one of those moments too, because I look back on things like, obvious things, like I wrote a book in 2020 called Borrowing While Black, and going into a conversation with a group of women, mostly women of color, and not thinking, okay, we might trigger some things, in this group by talking about this debt and talking about how it disproportionately affects women of color, especially Black women. And as, you could see some of the faces, and, the reactions, I just thought, wow, how, again, like Taylor said, how could I not have seen, this coming? But the beauty of it was that you get to the other side of it by acknowledging it. So once it was out there, it was, okay, well, this is the situation that we're in. These are some tools that can help the situation. Let's put together a plan for each of you that can help you get to a better place with this. Because in addition to the Friday evening meetings of the group, we also had one-to-one sessions so that we could look at everyone's loans for those that did have loans, and just take an inventory, show them what it looks like to advise a person on this, and then talk to them about their goals so that we can make sure that the path that they're taking with their student loans is conducive to them getting to other goals, financial and otherwise. So it just, I can't underestimate or understate how greatly the effect of student loans is trivialized, especially when it comes to women's experiences. And I really think that people could benefit from hearing more about individuals' experiences, because if people knew not only the size of these debts, this year I've met with people who owe from $2,000 to more than $500,000. When you know the size of these debts, how these debts prevent people from being able to make choices like going from renting to home ownership, purchasing a car, saving for their children's education. When you see how much of their lives are dictated by debt, I really think that it would cause people to change the way that they view debt and relief that's associated with debt. It's not handouts. This is people who have been harmed by certain practices within lending and servicing, and there are proposals on the table to help relieve that debt and address the harm in some way. But it's not that people were overindulgent all the time with lattes and spring breaks. There are some very traumatic experiences that people are dealing with when they happen to be in school, when some of those situations have financial repercussions. Oftentimes, when you have an emergency situation, the school doesn't necessarily have an emergency fund that's going to give you cash. They're going to give you an increase in the amount of loans for the most part. So it's good to be in a school that has an emergency fund that helps students, not giving them more loans to cover the emergencies, but can help students right in that moment of crisis. But also I would just like to see us do more things like this and share these experiences so that people understand that it's far deeper than a simple debt. This is affecting people's lives, the trajectories of their financial lives, their personal wellness, their sleep patterns, their performance at work, their performance in the classroom. As Taylor said in the beginning, we can't just look at financial wellness in a vacuum. It's all connected. So if something traumatic is going on in a person's financial life, you can't expect that the side effects of whatever that trauma is will not be seen in other areas. And the pilot was a great, it was like a class for me. You know, I learned quite a bit, and I'm thankful for those lessons, and I will most certainly use them in guiding both the content that I develop for future projects and the provision of that safe space and what that looks like for different people.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you both so much. I mean, this is just so enlightening and just so instructive, you know, to hear you talk. And I think the issue of financial trauma is just a huge one, and one that's growing, and it's one that we need to be paying attention to, for sure. And it's been great that that this pilot program really has served as that, is serving as that vehicle for addressing some of this. So thank you so much for commenting on that. One thing that we do want to do in the future, and actually in the near future, for us on our Financial Social Work Initiative webpage, is an anonymous online brief survey that students and others can complete on their own. It's completely anonymous. It's 7 items that measure financial well-being, financial stress. You know, you can kind of find out where you are on the spectrum of that, and then it then guides you to our resources page, you know, to find out about things that might be able to help. And we're also continuing to build out our resources page, also to include different topics pertaining to student financial well-being, and you know, and different video testimonials, other things, you know, that people are sharing in terms of not only the pilot program or receiving coaching or student loan debt coaching, you know, but just talking a little bit about their sense of financial wellness and what's been able to help them. So we'll pop that link into the chat, and I think within the coming week we're going to be loading this anonymous financial well-being and stress survey, so that folks can kind of see where they stand on that, and that's something that we're really excited about, and just something that we see as really necessary. I do want to give a shout out as well for, oh, Tisa, do you have your hand up? Sorry. Okay, all right.
That was applause.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. The first gen program at the school, I also want to give a shout out to that. Our own Dean Schaefer has been very involved and instrumental in getting that up and going, and certainly for a lot of first gen students and families, the financial piece, financial trauma, other financial concerns, distress, very present there. And so the first gen program is something that is just really exciting, and just meets a tremendous need. And so just a shout out to Dawn Schaefer, to Dean Schaefer, to Dean Taylor on this, and you know, we can pop that into the chat as well. I think that kind of wraps up what we wanted to talk about today, and I would just like to open up the floor for some questions, if you would like.
So I'm sorry I had to pop in and out a couple of times, but I did have one question. So your pilot program, because I think I may have missed it, is it only for University of Maryland students or for any students that are attending a college here in the state of Maryland? How does that pilot program work?
So the pilot program was designed to specifically reach students from the University of Maryland School of Social Work. So we're looking at their class of 2023. Big picture, what I want is just an, I won't say an office full, but basically an army of people who have been trained in this space, along with funding to support them delivering this service to borrowers for free. No stipulations on what school they attend, what kind of debt they have, none of that. It's just something that I believe should be baked in at the state level.
Okay. So given that in the state of Maryland, is there something that's similar? Would it just be the cash campaign where you can get different information and different assistance? Something similar to work with students who may need coaching to some degree?
Yes. So the Cash Campaign of Maryland is a great source for financial coaching. The specific area of student loan repayment is not something that they deal with at this time. I actually see people and am training some volunteers who are interested in doing that work. So I hope that within a few months, we'll have a much larger imprint and we'll be able to reach many more people.
Okay, thank you.
And then just to share too, so we're working with our alumni population as well at the School of Social Work. Right now, we're starting at social work with the idea that this will spread to the other campuses, but we've got to work out, to be honest, we've got some gremlins still that we got to figure out. And we really want to come to this topic from a strength-based perspective, as well as from a social work perspective. You hear me talking about hierarchy of needs a lot. You hear me talking about social emotional wellness. We're making sure that we're including diversity, equity, and inclusion in this program. So we really are trying to, I think, as Tisa said, turn this into a holistic, right? Not just kind of a check your box. I will say, and I say this kind of probably sheepishly, a lot of folks outside of our School of Social Work will email me, and then I will talk to them for a few minutes and get them to the right person on their campus in their space. I tend to do that in the evenings and on the weekends so that I'm not, using up university time, but I do get a lot of phone calls and saying, where do I go? If you can imagine, I actually get phone calls from high school students. And what we're trying to do is, once again, make this topic so every day, right? I hate to say it, but it's kind of like the topics of reproductive health, of religion, of politics. We always were told those were 3 things we shouldn't talk in public about. I want people to talk in public about those, right? Because the more we talk, the more transparent we are, the healthier choices folks can make. So we don't turn anybody away. Now, we don't do exactly what we did in the pilot, right? I don't have time for that, but I do find stuff for folks. So if there's something that's coming up, please reach out. I think my email is somewhere, but I can put it in the chat. And like I said, I'll get folks to the right partnership.
Great, thank you both. Any other questions before we conclude? Okay, thank you. There's Taylor's email address. Our next event is going to be on Tuesday, December 6th. We'll be discussing building a financial coaching practice and talking about financial coaching. So Tisa will again be one of our guest speakers, and then we'll also have Sue Rogan from the Cash Campaign of Maryland, talking about financial coaching. And there's the registration as well, and we'll be getting the word out on that too.
So Christine, I just wanted to throw this in there. I believe Ben Timmon, who also works at the agency I work for, came through your program as well. Just want to say that today he's at the Doors conference, and he's providing a presentation on financial wellness to everyone there to get them to help with a lot of the individuals, like we were saying, that have disabilities that they're working with, and trying to get folks on track for that. So we made it an initiative in our agency to come up with a financial wellness program that could go across all spectrums of what we do, because our agency is like a comprehensive type of a human service agency. So we offer a lot of different things, including like therapy services and all those things. So we come at it from a holistic approach as well, and try to look at all aspects of the person's life and how we can help them to, you know, to better themselves and to be a more happy and whole individual. So we took that initiative and we spread it across our agency, and we're part of, we're a sister agency to the Associated. So what we do, we get to kind of introduce it to them as well. But I thought it was really cool that we were given the opportunity to present at the Doors Conference this year. And that was the topic that we selected to share at that conference.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, congratulations. That is
Thank
just,
you.
that's so encouraging and wonderful to hear. Just thank
Thanks
you
a
for
lot.
that. Yeah, yeah. Well, we, if there's no other questions, we will, we'll conclude for now, and just would love to stay in touch. Wonderful to see you, see everyone today, and just looking forward to staying in touch.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.